Hi and welcome to this DCP Word tutorial. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be giving you a beginner's guide to using Adobe Premiere Pro. Okay, so on my desktop I've got this folder, and inside this folder I have 9 video tracks and 1 audio track. I'm just going to quickly show you how to download one example video and how I access this audio track. So let's open up the web browser. I'm going to go to this website called Pixabay, and all you do is click on the drop down and select 1920 by 1080 and then click the green download button. That will download that particular video track, and then if you want to download the same audio track I'm using, you need to go to YouTube, Audio Library, and you want to search for a track in here called Liquid Time. So when you search for that, you'll find this track here, and just click the download button to download that audio track. All of the video tracks and audio tracks that I'll use in this tutorial, I'll put links to in the YouTube description, so you can download all 9 videos and also the audio track I'll use in this tutorial. Okay, let's minimize this folder for the moment and we'll go ahead and open up Adobe Premiere Pro. I'm going to boot the application straight from the beginning, so we're going to watch it load up, and it's going to give us some options at the beginning. So I want to go through really as if you're just booting up the software for the first time, what you're going to be doing. So Premiere Pro is loading right now, and this is the sort of a little splash screen, right? We can access all the previous projects that we worked on. You've got tutorials here and stuff like that, but we want to click on here, new project. So we're going to click on new project, and this window is going to pop up. The first thing it's going to ask us to do is give a name for our project, and I'm going to call it Planet Earth, because that's what our video content is themed about. And then we have to find a location for this project. So I'm going to go to this PC, my desktop, and go into this folder, and I'm going to select this folder. And in here you've got the video render and playback. So you can either use software playback, which I wouldn't advise. I would advise you use your GPU. So if you've got a graphic card in your machine and you get an option here to select your GPU, you should most definitely do that. The video, we're going to use time code, so it will be hours, minutes, seconds, and then frames. This is what we want here. And then the audio, we just leave it as audio samples. This is fine. And the capture, we're not really capturing any content into Adobe Premiere, so we're not doing any filming and capturing stuff today, so we can just leave this as DV. It's fine. Let's go ahead and click OK, and Premiere will boot up into the first interface. Let's just let this load. Now if your interface is looking different to this, you want to go to the window, workspace, and you want to select all panels here. So select all panels, and it should lay out like this. So this is really like an optimum interface. You can think of it like that. This is how I like to see everything. Now what we want to do is go back to window, and we want to go to project here. Click project, and when you click project, you'll see the project panel here. So this is where we're going to store all of our content. Rather than going to the directory on our desktop and coming back into Premiere, we can just open up this folder, and this is what contains all of our content. So we want to select all of the 9 video clips, including the audio clip. So this is 1 video, these are the other 8, that's 9 videos, and this 1 audio track. If I drag and drop that into this project folder here, all of that information is now stored inside Premiere, so we don't have to keep going to the desktop to get files and stuff like that. It's better to store it all here. It's not really storing it, it's referencing it from that directory. Think of it that way. So it's just easier way to access this information, you can say. Okay, so we downloaded this Planet Earth here, and when you move your mouse cursor over it, you can kind of scrub through the video just to see what it looks like. You can scrub through them on the thumbnail, right, just to get an idea of what's going on in these clips. So I'm going to drag this Planet Earth, I'm going to left click on it and drag and drop it onto what we call the timeline. So this is the timeline here, and when you drag and drop a video clip onto there, you'll see this little video player here, right? And you'll see 0 frames, 0 seconds. So remember, it's hours, minutes, seconds, and then frames. And then over here it gives you the total duration of your clip so far. So it's 15 seconds long. So if we were to click on this little blue handle, this is called the timeline cursor, we can left click on it and drag across this timeline to just see what the video looks like. And you can also click the play button and it will play a lot smoother, just like this. Now if for any reason it's playing a little bit jerky in here, you can click here and you can select these other options. So if I select full, that means it's rendering at full resolution in this video player, so it will be at its full 1080p resolution. But I prefer to set it to like half, so it's half the resolution, and then things will play a little bit smoother. If you notice this interface, you've got like these little options here to go forward and backwards a keyframe. You can also use the left and right keys on your keyboard to jog through the keyframe. So this is quite important when we're trying to do cutting at a very specific point, we can move frame by frame. You see 25 here, and then we see 26, 27, 28, 29, and then it will go on to 4 seconds. Or you can grab the handle and drag it across like this as well. You can also hold down the control key and use the left and right arrow to move multiple frames. So it will move like 5 frames for every movement rather than 1 frame. Now you'll notice here this interface will come back again. So if I click play and stop, you'll see the interface changes, right? So if you want to get back your other interface, just click on the timeline cursor and just move it a little bit, and you'll see the play button, the mark in and mark out, and so forth. So we're going to go through a little bit of this in a moment. So we've got one video clip in here, and obviously we want more than that. So let's scroll to the very top. We've used that clip there. So let's take this one. Let's drag and drop that onto the timeline. And as default, the tools are going to snap. So this video clip is going to snap next to this one. And we've got the snapping timeline tool enabled here. Yeah. We also have the insert and overwrite sequence. And we also have the link section. So enable these 3 for now. And if you drag a clip towards another clip, it will snap to the end of that. And that just makes it easier to align your clips and have transitions afterwards. I'm going to show you how to do transitions. Now these 2 clips are sitting side by side, but you'll notice a difference between them. This first one is, don't worry about the colors. The colors just represent, they'll like alternate as you go along. So really the difference between these 2 is this one has audio, although the audio is actually muted. There is actually no audio, but it had an audio track in there. So how do we separate the audio track from the video so we can delete it? Let's just right click on this and then unlink it here, unlink. And when we unlink it, we can select the audio or the video separately. So if you want to keep some audio but delete the video, you can work it either way around. But in this case, we're going to select the audio and delete it. Okay, so normally when I'm editing videos, I try and get all my videos sequenced first. And then afterwards, I'll go in and cut and edit and do stuff to it. So you can see, we can only see like 2 video tracks at the moment on the timeline. The timeline finishes. It doesn't finish here, but that's how much view we've got of it. So we can click on this little handle here and we can drag it to the left, or we can drag it to the right to zoom in and out. This is quite useful. So we can zoom right out. Now we've got all of this space to work with, and then we can click on the bar and drag it across to see more content. So this is how we zoom in and out of the timeline, especially when you're working on like finite frames. This is a useful tool to have. So let's see what we've got. We've got the what do we have? We have the planet Earth, then we've got these clouds, which kind of works together. You're outside on the planet, then you're zooming in, you're going to see some clouds, and we've got these other various video clips that we'll use. So we can just, let's take the forest for example. We drag that into here. Again, it's got an audio track, so let's move across and we'll click on this clip. We'll right click on it. Let's right click. Let's unlink it and delete that audio, because remember we downloaded some audio, some music that we're going to put on this video once we've finished. And then, so we've used these 3 basically. We might as well use them in the sequence that we see. So let's take this other water clip, let's drag that onto the timeline, and then we just right click. So we'll left click, then right click, unlink it and delete that audio. And you could zoom out again, you could zoom out more to see all of this stuff, together. That might be a wise thing to do. And we'll move down, so you can just use your mouse wheel to rotate down. We've got some more water here, so let's just drag that next to this one, and we'll click it, we'll right click, unlink it, and this one actually has audio to it. So if I scrub across this part, we should actually hear some audio. It's not going to sound very good. Let's play it. So we've got some audio there, and you can see the UV meters here moving, but we don't want that audio. It's just like the sound of the water. So let's click it, let's right click it. We've already unlinked it, so we can just click the audio and delete it. Let's move down here a little bit more. We've got this forest, then we've got these poppies, we've got a few other clips in here, we've got mountains and stuff. So let's take the mountains and drag that here. And then we'll move across the timeline. We'll take this forest, we'll drag that one there. Then let's see what else we've got. This very last one is actually the composition we're making right now. So if you look in the bottom, this looks like the first clip at the top, right? You see the planet Earth there. This is really representing the composition that we're creating right now. You'll see 2 minutes, 42 seconds and 28 frames. And if you look in the bottom left here, you'll see the same 2 minutes, 42 seconds and 28 frames. So this is what we call a composition, is what we're creating inside here. And we can create many of these. We could create different sequences. It doesn't have to be this one composition, right? In Premiere Pro, we can create different versions, different scenes and stuff like this. So what did we finish on? We finished on this forest. Let's take this mountain. I think we haven't used that one yet. I'm not sure. I think we've used this one already. Let's see. we've got that mountain, and then we've got this one. Are they the same? Let's see. Yeah, I think those are the two same clips. So let's get rid of that. We don't need that. We've already used it. And we want to take these like poppy seeds, these like sunflowers. Let's drag that one. Sunflowers, and then the waterfall at the end. And then we'll click here, right click, we'll unlink it and select that audio track and delete it. And then we'll move across a little bit more, because at the very end I want to reuse the planet Earth clip. So I'm going to drag that back onto the timeline at the very end, because that will be almost like our ending, and we'll use the planet at the beginning. We could even reverse this, so we could have it maybe going in the opposite direction. Rather than zooming into the planet, we can have it zooming out. So maybe we'll do that as well as an example. But let's move back to the beginning of the timeline, and we can think about editing some of this content. Okay, so each one of these boxes on the timeline represents a different clip. If we double click on this planet Earth, double left click, you'll see that another video player pop up here. Now this video player here on the left hand side is only for the duration of this particular video clip. So we can scrub across this timeline, and we can say we only want 10 seconds, for example, right? So what we're doing, we're starting at 0 frames and we're going to finish at 10 seconds. Now one problem you might find is if we double click on some of these clips, I think all of these ones are going to be fine. But sometimes when you double click on a video clip, it will have its own time code inside of the video clip, and it will start off at a strange number, and when you're trying to edit and cut it, it just won't work. So what you need to do is go to edit, go to preferences, and in general here, general, we'll go to media, and inside media you want to set the time code to start at 00. So you can see use media source, or start at 0 frames, 0 hours, 0 seconds, 0 minutes, and 0 frames. Always start at this like this, set this up this way, and whenever you're editing your individual clips, it will always start at 00, and this just makes life a little easier. So when we click OK, we can grab this little blue cursor, drag it across, and we want to get to 10 seconds. We want the intro to be, let's say, let's make it 11 seconds, because the first second I want to do like a fade, right? So if you move across and you go a few frames over, you can use these little arrows here. So this one will go back a few frames, this one will go forward a few frames, or you can just use the left and right arrow keys on your keyboard. Now we want to mark the video in and out. So what we do is use this tool to mark it out here, mark out, and we'll scrub right back to the beginning and we'll mark it in here. So this is now the beginning and this is the end, and it's exactly 11 seconds long. I think it's 11 seconds and a frame. Let's see, let's make it 11 seconds. So sometimes you need that extra frame. I'm not 100% sure why you need the extra frame. I think it's because it's running at 29 frames a second. You need that extra frame, or 30 frames a second. Sometimes you'll get an extra frame at the end, but don't worry about that. But what you will notice is on the timeline, the video clip has now got a gap there, right? Because we cut that part out, we cut the end part out of this intro clip. So now we can take this aerial clip and drag that across, and we can double click on it, and we'll see that this actual track is 11 seconds long. So I want to try and make all of these 11 or 10 seconds long. So let's grab the forest. This is already 11 seconds, so it's perfect for us. The intro is 11 seconds and a frame. Let's grab the forest one, drag it across. Let's just drag this across here, double click on it, and then you don't have to start from the beginning. So we could move across this timeline to something, this is 31 seconds, right? So we can move to, let's say, 10 seconds. So let's just go back a few frames to 10 seconds, and we'll mark it in from using this one. We'll mark it in, and then we'll move across, and we want 11 seconds. So we'll be on 21, right? 21 seconds here would be exactly 11-second duration from the start to this point, and then we'll mark it out. So now you can see this clip has got a gap at the front and the end in between, right? Now sometimes when you've got lots of gaps in your clip, if for example, if I were to drag this out here and drag this out a little bit as well, let's just drag these out. So we've got a couple of gaps here. We've got another gap over here. How do we quickly close those gaps? You could start dragging all of these clips separately, or you could select all of them and drag them across. But if you go up to, I believe, sequence and select close gap, then it will close all of the gaps automatically. So that's a nice quick way to close gaps, yeah? If you've got many of them. If you don't, you can just drag it across. Let's double click on the harbor, and we do a 11-second cut of this as well, or we do with 11 seconds. So we've got 24 seconds to work with. So let's say we start from let's start from 10 again. Let's make life a little bit easy. Let's go from 10 here. So we'll mark it in, and we're going to go across to 21 seconds. Let's see, 21 will be here. Let's go back a frame, and then mark it out. So we've got the hover clip done. We'll drag that across. I'm going to do these a little bit quicker. Let's double click here, and I'm just going to move across the timeline. I'm going to go to 11 seconds this time, mark it in, and then I want 22. 22. Let's go back a few frames and mark it out, and we drag this across. Now this could have been video footage that you captured on your mobile phone, on your, on a holiday, maybe a business event, and you've taken loads of different shots at that particular holiday or business event or birthday party, and you want to stitch them all together. So remember, when you're recording on your phone, you're going to have many different clips. You're going to start and stop your videos, and each one of these blocks will be representing a different part of that that birthday party or that business event or that holiday. And then you could sequence them. You'll know what happened during that party or the holiday, and you would sequence them in logical order. Let's drag this sunshine across. And one thing to note is, in fact, this should be fine. We'll drag this across. Let's double click it, and I want to get it where the sunrise is coming up. So around here, let's mark it out at around 12 seconds, right? Well, let's do 13 should be good. 13. So we'll mark it out, and we want to go to 24 now. 24 will be 11 seconds. Let's go to 24 here, and we'll go back a few frames, and we'll mark it out here. So let's drag that across. We've already got a few more. So what you can do is left click and drag across, holding down the left mouse button. All of these are grouped together, and now we can drag them all in one element across, and then left click to deselect them. We've just done the sunshine, so now we're going to go to the river one. It says river. I'm not sure why it says river there, but it does. Maybe, okay, there's a river inside here. So let's see. Let's go to around 4 seconds, and then, okay, so I've pressed the wrong button. Let's just explain something. If I move across the timeline, if I click this button, it will go back to wherever the mark-in was, right? So if I click it, it's going to go right back to the beginning. So let's move across to, let's say, 5 seconds, and actually we want to do 4 seconds here. 4. Let's go to 4. We'll mark it in here, and then we'll move across here, and we want what, 16, right? 16. Do we have 16? We have less than 16. So let's just mark this in a little bit closer. Let's do it at 3 seconds. So we just move to 3 seconds, mark it in, and we want to go to now 14, right? 14 here, and we just jog this forward one, and then mark out. So if we click this button, it takes us to the beginning. If we click this one, it takes us to the end where we've marked in and out. So this is marked. Let's move across. Let's grab this one, drag it across, double click. We've got the sunflowers. It's 11 seconds and 22 frames. So we're just going to cut 22 frames off at the end. Let's just go to 11 seconds here. We'll go forward one. Let's go forward a frame first, and then mark it out here. So this will be 11-second duration, this sunflower. Yep, that's good. The waterfall, we'll double click it. Let's scrub across the timeline. This is 36 seconds, so it's all pretty much the same in here. So let's just start off at 10. Let's just go back a few frames here, and then we'll mark it in, and we'll go to 21, right? 21, and we'll mark it out, and let's just move that across. Now wisdom tells us we've already cut the beginning of this clip, right? So do we really need to recut it? We don't. So we can just select it and delete it. We can go back to the beginning, select this clip, press Ctrl C to copy, and then move across the timeline and press Ctrl V to paste. Always try and move the timeline cursor away from the last end clip, and then snap it back like this. So really we've done our sequencing now. Now we can add transitions. We can maybe add a title at the beginning. This very last one, we want it to reverse the clip. So let's do that first. So let's click on this, right click, and we're going to go to speed and duration. And in speed and duration, we're going to select reverse and then click OK. So now it will zoom out the opposite direction basically, right? And this one's kind of zooming in at the beginning. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is add a little title at the beginning of this video clip. So I'm going to click on the text tool down here. This is the text tool. I'm going to select that and click inside the canvas, and then I'm going to type in planet Earth, something nice and simple like planet Earth, and we'll click on the selection tool or press the letter V. Now we've got the selection tool here. We can move the planet or this text, planet Earth, and there's a little circle here. You can maybe just about see it. I'm going to hold down the control key, click on that circle and drag it to the center of this text, so it will snap into the center. then I can drag this text holding the control key, and that will snap into the middle of the video clip, right? So we can position it right in the middle. You might have to adjust that slightly afterwards. The font I don't really like, so what I'll do is click on this text and then go to we can go to window and go to effects controls here, and when we do that, we'll see the text options, and it's written Planet Earth there, the same text, right? So let's expand that, and when we expand it, we've got all the different font options in here. There's two ways you can choose the fonts. You can either choose them by selecting them, or you can roll your mouse. You can move your mouse over the actual text, drop down, and just roll your mouse wheel to select or see or preview these different font options. And I think I'll use this one here. I quite like this font, but I want it to be much bigger. So let's increase the size of it. Let's increase the size, and what we'll do is just drag it towards the center. Let's hold down the control key and realign. Probably the smart thing to do is get your font size the right size, and then if you notice, you can drag that little dot in the center there, hold down the control key, drag it and snap it to the middle. Try and get your font size correct first, then do the center point origin, yeah, this center point here. Let's hold down the control key and drag the text back to the center, and I like that size, it's pretty good, but the font isn't very legible, right? So what we can do is we can maybe make it all caps, for example. So you can set it to all caps, we can drag that across. So that's much bigger, but it's probably a bit too big, so let's reduce the size a little bit. We'll drag it to the center. We have to realign our center point again, so let's just hold down the control key, click it, click the text, hold down the control key and realign to the center. It doesn't have to be the center, it can be at the bottom, the top, wherever you like, but I think that's a good position and a pretty good font size. So we made it all caps. You can make it bold if you want to make it bold. I'm not going to bother with bold, but we've got a few other options here. So we've got like the fill type. So if we click here, we could make it black text, for example. So that's really hard to see, but we can add a stroke to it. So we can turn on the stroke, and now it's got an outline around it, and you can change the color of the stroke. You can make it like a red color if you wanted, for example. We can click red. Now you've got this red stroke edge, and you can change the size of the stroke here as well, and you can add more strokes by clicking this button. You can add a second stroke and a third stroke. You can click another one, you can enable it, you can set a different color. Let's say we set it to green, for example, and then we can increase that size, and then you have a double stroke, right? Two outlines. We don't really want this second one, and we don't really want red. We're just going to stick with white color, because I think that will be more legible, because more seeable, right? You can see that a bit clearer. And I'll leave you to go and experiment. Really, all of these options in here you can play around with. You can change like the character spacing here if you want. I'm not really going to do that. I think this is okay for a demonstration example. Now, if we were to click play, we don't really want that text to show straight away, and we don't want the planet Earth to show straight away. So we want to fade this planet Earth in, and then we want to fade this text in afterwards and have it show, and then have it fade out afterwards, right? So now we want to zoom in on the clip. So we're going to click this little handle and start to zoom in onto these two layers here, because this is where our content is going to be. And the first thing we want to do is fade from black, right? So there's a quick way to do that. You can go to, you need to see the effects. So make sure you go to window and click effects here, and you'll see all the effects options. You've got video effects and you've got transitions. So we're going to click on transitions, and we're going to go to dissolve, and we've got something called dip to black, and we're going to drag and drop that at the beginning of the video clip. So when we move back on our cursor and click play, it's going to fade in like this. And if you want it to fade on a longer duration, you can just like literally move your mouse to the right hand side of this dip color and drag it. Yeah, you can drag it, you can have it as long as you want. That is going to fade in very slowly, right? It's going to just take longer to fade in like this duration. So let's drag it back. Really, I just want to leave it as a default. So let's press Ctrl Z and Ctrl Z twice, so it's just at its default value. So it's just going to fade in nice and sharp like this, and then we've got this duration to work with to fade our planet Earth in and out. So I'm going to drag this planet Earth more towards the center of the clip, because we're going to do another transition here with this this particular planet Earth. What we want to do is animate it, and we want to animate let's see, the opacity. So if I drag this opacity down, you can see I can fade it in and out, right? Like 100% zero. So right now we're on the timeline in the correct position, and this is another little timeline here, but it's only relevant for this particular clip because we clicked on it. So the duration here is the duration of what this clip is, and what I want to do is add a keyframe for the opacity. So I'm going to click on this little stopwatch, and that will add one keyframe, and I'm going to set the value to 0. Then I'm going to drag across. Let's say we're going to start here. Let's move across this timeline. Let's see. Probably we will let's just use the arrow on our keyboard. So let's go forward maybe, I don't know, 15 frames. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 14, 15, 16. Let's say 15 frames, yeah? So we're going to move forward 15 frames, and then we will just increase this value to 100. So if we go back and we click, let's just jog this wheel here, jog this forward and backwards, click play, it will fade in like this, and then we'll have it play for a little while, and then we're going to go to the very end. So let's click on this, go to the very end, and we're going to set it to 0 value, and then we're going to move back 15 frames. So we use the arrow key and just press it 15 times, the left arrow key. So exactly 15 frames behind, and we will set the opacity to 100. So now it will fade in, stay there, and then fade out, right? So if we can see that happening, we'll click here and click play. It will fade in, and then it will fade out, and then the planet will get closer. So what we want to do now is add a transition between these two clips here, because like it's quite abrupt, the cut here, right? So we can do like in here you've got the different types of transitions. You've got dissolves, you've got loads of different examples in here. These are quite basic, the ones that come as default, but you can buy other transitions, right? You can buy them presets, you can buy a lot of this stuff if you want to play around with more transitions. But let's do some basic ones. So you've got like film dissolve, you've got cross dissolve, you've got additive dissolve. So let's drag and drop the cross dissolve, but we don't want to drag it towards the beginning of the first clip or the end of the last clip. Really, you should move your mouse cursor, move this timeline cursor away, and then you can drag and drop in between. Should we actually drag and drop? Let's see. Maybe these clips are not exactly stacked together. We just need to make sure they're sitting side by side, and we should be able to. Let's drag that here. Let's see. Let's click play, and it will cross dissolve like this. Normally I drag it in between both of them, but maybe let's press Ctrl Z. Let's do Ctrl Z. Let's try that. Let's try additive dissolve. So for some reason it's only dragging to the beginning of this clip. Let's move across the timeline. Let's see the next clip. Let's do a cross dissolve. Right. For whatever reason it's only dragging to the beginning or the end. It's a bit unusual. Let's just make sure there's no gaps in here. So let's zoom right out. Hold down the Alt key on your keyboard. Use the mouse wheel to zoom right out. And let's just select these at the bottom. Let's go to sequence and close gaps. Let's just make sure there's no gaps in there, and we'll try this cross dissolve. Normally I drag them in between, but for whatever reason it's not dragging between the clips. Let's try here. You can see I can drag between these ones, right? So let's see. That's additive dissolve. Maybe cross dissolve. Yeah, we can drag between them now for some reason. Let's try it on these ones here. For this, for some reason, well, maybe it's the frames or something. It can't do the cross dissolve like that particular way. So we won't worry about that too much. Let's just drag the cross dissolve here. So it should work out fine anyway, because we'll still see the cross dissolve working. You can see the cross dissolve here, and then we can drag another cross dissolve here, and let's see how that one works. Little cross dissolve, but normally I drag them and overlap both of them. Can you see like there's a little overlap here? That's how I normally do it, like this. So I'm not sure why you have to drag to the beginning or the end of these ones. It's a bit unusual, but if I figure that out, I'll make another video and explain that one. So you've got all these different ones. So you've got film. So on film, let's just jog this a little bit, click play. You've got these nice little transitions. And then you've got some more, how can I say, some more interesting ones. Let's minimize this. And you've got immersive video. Then you've got like random blocks. So you've got this like zoom effect. So we can drag this one. Let's drag that one here. And we'll click play. And then you've got these sort of zoom effects, right? And you've got random blocks. Let's drag that one. We can see what that looks like. Let's just move this. So you've got all these different types of effects, and each one of these effects has its own options here. So you can set the block width, you can set all of the different options in the effects controls. So as and when you click on these transitions, they have assets to them, right? They have options to change them, so you should go and experiment with them. But the wise thing, I think, let's just show you a couple more examples and then we'll just stick with one transition. So you've got like page pill, so let's just drag a page pill as an example. We'll drag this one, let's drag it here. And you can see like this page pill effect. I'm not really into those sort of page pill ones. So what I'll do is click this one and just hit the delete key to delete these. And we're just going to use one standard transition. For me, I would advise, unless you're doing something quite creative, then if it's something simple like a video sequence like this, I'll typically use the same type of transition across all of them. And normally I'll use like a cross dissolve or additive dissolve, one of these two. So we'll use a cross dissolve, I think will be fine. So we can only drag that towards the end or the beginning of this one for some reason. This one we can only drag it towards the end. I think it's something to do with the frames, the amount of frames. I have to read about that a little bit, but these ones we can drag straight over the top of both clips, like in between. So we'll drag them in between. That's what I normally do. Let's just drag these like this. We'll have to drag that one towards the end. Drag that in the middle. And drag that one in the middle. So all of these clips now will cross dissolve like so, right? Cross dissolve. And I think that looks okay. Let's just see that on this last one. So now the planet is going in the opposite direction, right? So we might as well just go ahead and take our planet Earth text, copy it, press Ctrl C to copy, and what we need to do is we need to turn this one off. So we don't want to target this track, we want to target the top one, this top track, right? Because we're going to select this clip, copy it, we're going to move across the timeline to like the midpoint of this planet Earth, this video, and press Ctrl V to paste it. Then we can drag it back a bit so it's kind of sitting in between the middle part. If you don't, basically when you're copying and pasting, if I were to turn this one back on and turn this one off, if I were to move across the timeline, even if I copy this particular object and then press Ctrl V to paste, can you see it will paste it on this layer? It's because this is the active layer that it's targeting. So we need to turn these layers off and on to tell the software which layer do we actually want to paste it. It's not a problem. You could paste it here and drag it upwards, but why do that when you can just move the timeline cursor here, turn it off and on, and you're good to go. So let's just see if that works here. This little planet Earth thing, right? This is all working. So I just want to show you a couple more things before we finish. Let's go to one of these video clips and let's just show you a bit of color grading. So let's find something with a bit of color in it. Let's take this scene here, for example. We'll click on this, and over in the effects options, we're going to go to, let's see, let's minimize this. We're going to go to Lumetri color here. We're going to click this and we're going to open up the basic correction here. And in here we can change like the temperature, so we can make it more of a red sort of sunny day. We can make it more of a cold winter day. You can change the color of the scene, the temperature, right? Is it cold or is it hot, or is it just what it is basically? So we're going to make it a little bit warmer, let's say. In fact, the clouds look quite blue, so we'll make it a little bit more colder, right? In the colder. So we're going to move it towards the blue. The exposure is going to be the amount of light in this scene. The scene is pretty good, so we're just going to bump it up a slight amount. And the contrast is between the light and dark colors. So I want to bump up the contrast so that we get a lot of dark shadows here. This will make this clip pop a little bit better. The highlights will improve our lighter colors, right? So I don't think we need to do much with that. And then the shadows, we can bring that down to make things a little bit darker, so our shadows look a bit darker now. And then we've got whites and blacks here, so you can increase your whites, just brighten things up, and you can decrease your blacks to make things look a little bit darker. And then you can go to the saturation and bump that up and give it a bit more vibrancy. Alright, so now you can see how we're changing that video clip, and we call that color grading basically. So let's try it on this one as well. We'll click here, click on the clip, and then you've got the temperature. Let's make that a bit more of a red color because it's quite a nice sort of scene. The exposure is pretty good already, so we'll increase the contrast so we can get a bit more light and dark in here. The highlights will increase those slightly. The shadows will bring it down a little bit. Let's increase our whites a little bit and bring down the black so we get this more of like a silhouette in the background here. And then we can increase the saturation a little bit. And there's another color grade. You need to experiment with color grades, and it's down to your own perception what you want it to look like. There's no perfect rule for color grading. At the end of the day, it's your video clip, so if you want it to look a certain color, if you want it to look green, then that's what you want. It's your clip. You can make it look green if you want, but let's not make this green. That doesn't make too much sense. So we'll do a little color grade on this. I want to increase the warmth to this. Well, exposure is pretty good as well. Contrast is pretty good. I just want to bring the contrast up a little bit, so between our lights and darks, the highlights we can bring them up a little bit, and the shadows will bring them down slightly, and the whites will increase them slightly, and blacks and all that bring them down a little bit, and then bump up the saturation just to give it a bit more color. And that's that graded, right? And I would spend a lot more longer just experimenting. And what you can actually do is, let's say if we go to this clip here, this one, and if we double click on it, we can see the before and after. When you double click, you'll see it's in its raw format, and then you can see what it looks like as you're color grading. So this is a good way to reference both of them. This is what it looks like after you've color graded. And if it looks absolutely awful, then you haven't done a good color grade. So you should really maybe go back and change the temperature, maybe make it more blue if you want, or play around, experiment. It's about having a bit of fun, isn't it? So what's missing from this is the audio. So let's move down here. Here's the audio. It's called Liquid Time. Let's drag and drop that, and you'll notice you got the letter V here. V stands for videos, and videos will stack upwards. And this is like the bottom layer, then this will be the next layer above, and a layer above that. You can stack these many layers going up, and audio you can stack them going down. So we drag and drop the audio clip here, and let's click play, and let's just hear that. Now what if we wanted to decrease the audio, or if we wanted to fade it in? So let's fade in the audio first. First thing, what I normally do is I right click on the audio and go to the audio gain here. And one thing to note, if I click play, let's just show you play. If I click play, you can see kind of where the gain, or where the audio clip is dB levels, right? And you want your dB levels around like 12 to 6, around these sort of points here. Then the audio won't distort. So when I click play, you can see where it's peaking, right, at around 6, right there. So the audio actually, the gain on the audio is actually pretty good. So we don't have to adjust it. But if the audio is really quiet, then you could right click, go to audio gain, and you can set the gain to a certain value. So if I were to set this to something like minus, let's say we set it to minus 20 for example, and click OK, and then we just move backwards and forwards and click play, you'll see the audio is much lower now, right? It's much quiet. And if you want it to be really quiet audio, then you can set it to minus 20 dB, and it will peak around that sort of number, around that minus 20, or roughly around that range. But we want it to be as its default, or maybe a little bit quiet. I think it's a little bit loud. So we'll go back to the audio gain, and we'll set it to something like minus 12, I think would be good. Click OK. Let's just try that. We can see like it's peaking around the 12 marker. That's probably about right. Now we want to fade the audio in, so let's go back to effects. Let's go to audio effects here, and let's see, we want to fade that in. Okay, actually we don't want to go into audio effects, we want to go into audio transitions. And we've got crossfades here, and you've got constant gain, you've got constant power, and you've got exponential fades. We're going to grab that and drag it to the beginning of the audio track. Then we can double click, or we can right click and go to set transition duration, and right now it's set to 1 second, and maybe we'll set it to something like 3 seconds and click OK, and you'll see it will increase in size here. And if we move back and click play, the audio will gradually fade in. You could fade that in over a longer duration if you want, and then you can go and drag that same option to the end of the clip. And normally I would fade the clip in fact, we've got too much audio here, right? Let's click that. Let's hit the delete key to delete it. And we need to cut this audio clip. So let's move our cursor to the end of the video clip right here. Use the cut tool, and we'll cut the video clip here. And then we will use the audio clip we'll cut. And then we'll use the selection and select the end audio and delete it. So if you want it, you can cut videos in that way as well. You can click on the cut tool and drag across to a certain part of the video clip, and then just click here, and it will cut it into 2 pieces, right? So now you've got 2 separate pieces of this waterfall, for example. I'm going to undo that. Let's just press Ctrl Z to undo that. And that's another way to cut clips. So you can either cut a clip and separate it if you wanted to, or you can double click on a video clip and set the in points and out points. That's another way to cut it. That's not really cutting, that's just really isolating a part of the clip, right? You're not cutting it in pieces per se. But if you want to cut and move it, then use the cut tool. As I've done with the audio, you can do that with the video. Let's just drag this so that it snaps to the end here, the audio. So if you haven't really deleted the audio, you can still drag it out, and you can drag it back and it will snap to the end here. We just want to fade it out at the end, so let's grab that audio, the exponential fade, and we'll drag it here. We'll double click, and this time we're going to set it to quite a large value, like 10 seconds. Click OK, and then all of this last part is going to fade out the audio. We'll just drag this slightly and click play. And sometimes when you're working with Adobe Premiere, if you've got a lot of things going on, especially I'm recording video at the same time, so I'm recording and doing all this editing off the same machine, it might jog and jerk a little bit in the playhead up here. It may not be as smooth as you would like, but normally when you're not screen recording at the same time, normally it plays out quite smooth. So let's go ahead and click File Save. And now we want to create a video that maybe we'll upload to YouTube or send it to your friends or family or WhatsApp or put it on Facebook, wherever you want. We'll go to File and we'll go to Export and we'll click Media. When we click Media here, we'll get the media options. And normally the default options in here are pretty good. So H.264 is going to be HD resolution, right? And it's going to be an MP4 file. So we want it to be an MP4 file. But you can select all these different options. You can do like PNG sequencing, you can do JPEG sequence, you can do GIF animations, you can do loads of different stuff in here. Let me just click here. Let's click back here and go to H.264 here. So we leave it at H.264. The bitrate, you can change the bitrate if you want, but right now it's set to high bitrate, and you can see the file size down here. It's 135 megabytes. So if I click on bitrate and set it to medium, for example, it will be 42 megabytes. Now the difference between medium and high is not going to be like massive amount of difference in terms of quality. If you're going to upload to somewhere like YouTube and you're making YouTube videos, then I suggest you upload it at the highest bitrate. So select high bitrate, and that will be better. But in this example, I'm going to leave it at medium bitrate because I'm not really going to be uploading this anywhere. Now we just need to choose the location, so the output file name. We'll click here, and then we're going to go to my PC desktop, go into this folder, and right now it's called Earth. So I'm just going to call this video clip Planet Earth -01, and we'll save this, and we'll click the export button. You can queue up videos, so you can queue many of them up. We're just going to click the export button, and it's going to start to do the export. Now you can see the timeline. It's only going to take like 30 seconds to export this, but I'm going to pause the video and we're going to come back and check out the end result. Okay, the video clip is finished exporting, and what we'll do is we're just going to minimize. Let's in fact go to File, Save. We should always save our work, right? And then we'll just minimize this, and inside of this folder we've got our video clip. Let's see, this one here, Planet Earth. So let's just double click that and let's just play that out and see what it looks like. Okay, so that's the end of this Adobe Premiere beginners tutorial. I hope you find it useful. I know the software can look quite daunting and I'm learning a lot about it myself. I've already started using it quite recently within the last sort of couple of weeks, but I've learned quite a lot and I want to share that knowledge with you and hopefully you'll learn something from this too. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I look forward to seeing you in the next DCP web tutorial.